The first time, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, X, Instagram, and on Facebook. I'm Bryson Carver. It is fantastic to be with you in the morning, and this is how it's going to be for a bare minimum the rest of the football season, maybe potentially beyond that. But like I said, I announced last week that the show will be moving from 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, which it's been for the last 5.5 years, basically. Since I've had a change in my school schedule, I'm like, you know what? I still want to do the show live. Obviously, I'm not going to stop doing the show. Are you freaking kidding me? There's too much going on. Too much to talk about. And I got to have an outlet to get this out. So we moved the show to the morning. So definitely a change in schedule, not just in terms of the show, but in terms of what our upload schedule is going to be. We're going to be putting out videos sooner than we would be doing in years past, short clips. So very, very excited for today's show. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. Before we get into the topics, let's check the comment section. Please chime into the chat. My man Patrick Brown, Grand Risings, everybody. Carving it up. He's calling it the Sunrise Edition. I appreciate that. Is where you should be. Let's run through comments, likes, shares, and subscribes. Be sure to hit up the Hype Points leaderboard after the recording ends. Yes, I cannot echo that enough. Thank you so much to Patrick, a dear friend of mine. And yes, please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. We would greatly appreciate it. Patrick also says every little bit pushes Bryson's content into multiple algorithms and gains further traction. Continue to support Carving It Up and the Grid Network YouTube channels. Appreciate the love, Patrick, and I echo everything you just said. Yeah, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to the Grid. You can see all of my platforms I'm live on right down below if you're watching. Instagram, I'm live on Instagram, X. Not live on TikTok just yet. We're still working on that, but I am live on my YouTube channel and the Grid Network's YouTube channel, so be sure to check out all of those platforms. Follow, subscribe, like, the whole bit. So loaded show on tap for you guys today. Going to start, obviously, with the situation regarding a player by the name of Dae'Quan Wright, who is going to be the first player ever to go from the NFL back to college football. Talk about that in just a second on a special Monday morning edition of Carving Up the Context. With the Browns minutes ago just named their starting quarterback. Get into that in about 10 minutes. I think it's an interesting choice. Let's put it that way. Talk about that. Get into Klay Thompson signing with the Miami Heat over the weekend, how that works out for them. Also touch on a number of other subjects in the NFL. Tyler Biadasz, the starting center for the Chargers, goes down. He's done for the season. How will that affect Justin Herbert? Why I still think there's no excuses for him. Fernando Mendoza is in a fantastic position to succeed with the Las Vegas Raiders, despite kind of a rocky second preseason start. So very excited about that. Appreciate Playing Cool Dude 22 says hi. Hello, Playing Cool Dude 22. Hello to everybody out there watching and listening. A 3-minute intro. Let's get right into the show. But first, man, headlines that I did not think I would ever discuss. But yesterday, it became all but official. Dae'Quan Wright, a name that most of you have probably never heard of, me neither. Dae'Quan Wright, a tight end, is going from the NFL to play college football for LSU, for Lane Kiffin and the LSU Tigers. So, before we get into any of this, as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deshaun Sanders says, give me my theme music. On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to be talking about Dae'Quan Wright, who's going to be, by the knowledge of Adam Schefter, Pete Thamel, and others, the very first player ever to go from the NFL back to college football. So the baseline of it is this, and I'm reading directly from the ESPN article. So Dae'Quan Wright's going to come back to college football. He's going to play at LSU. He played for 4 years for Virginia Tech and for Ole Miss. He played for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Then this offseason, undrafted free agent, goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, gets waived, gets claimed off waivers by the Cleveland Browns. He's going to be waived by Cleveland. Now he's going back to LSU. Now, how is this a possibility, you ask? Here's why. So, Dae'Quan Wright, who graduated from high school in 2022 and whose college eligibility ended last season, had filed a lawsuit because he was not included in the NCAA's new rule, less than 2 months old, that grants most Division I athletes 5 years of eligibility over 5 years, but doesn't take effect until next season. The 10th Circuit Court of Appeals granted the NCAA a stay Friday morning in an order reversing the federal judge's decision that had opened the door for all athletes who started college in the 2022-23 academic year and played for 4 consecutive seasons to return for a 5th season. But that stay does not wipe out the cases of dozens of athletes who have successfully petitioned for restraining orders to play a fifth season in state courts around the country. So basically, it's an ongoing legal situation. The eligibility conversation has been going on in college football for quite a few years now, and this is kind of the next major step in that conversation, that discussion, hopefully towards some sort of resolution, hopefully in the near future, because it's gotten out of control. But the main story to me is not that. It's this. Is that, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but contrary to what some out there might tell you, the problem with college sports is not NIL. Players should be getting paid. The problem is not the transfer portal, although there need to be guardrails. If an athlete wants to transfer, they should have the right to transfer, even if there should be a start and an end date to that and regulations on that. But they should have the right, obviously, to transfer. It's not conference realignment, which has objectively made certainly college football better, if not multiple sports better and more entertaining and have better games. It's not a lot of these things. The problem with college sports, and let's just talk about college football because that's the king of the college sports kingdom, so to speak. The problem is the NCAA is a completely incompetent ruling body who is incapable of making hard decisions and setting guardrails of any kind. It's the same reason why, this was one of the first segments I ever did in the history of the show back in like November 2019. I remember this was when Chase Young was at Ohio State and James Wiseman, former Warrior champion, was at Memphis. And there were a lot of conversations about, James Wiseman got paid to go to Memphis, and then he got banned from playing for the Tigers, and Chase Young paid for his girlfriend to come see him at the Rose Bowl the previous year, and that got him suspended. It's like, guys, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Because the NCAA was capable of making hard decisions, of making decisions that make good, basic common sense. It took the Supreme Court literally in 2021, as I've talked about over and over and over, a conservative Supreme Court, mind you, saying that, you know what, guys, college athletes are making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars for these athletic programs. They should have a piece of the pie. And in many cases, they're not even getting a slice from that specific pie. They're just getting some pie. If your, starting running back wants to get a deal from a local car dealership, they should have the right to do that. Like it's a capitalist society. So that's where we're at in this regard. And listen, everybody's path to success looks different. There is no single way. There's no, one linear path to being successful in any field. There's just not. It could be sports. It could be entertainment. It could be business. It could be anything. Politics. There's no one way to get to the top. There are some paths, however, that are, in no uncertain terms, should not be a thing. So it's funny. I've been doing a series. The most recent episode came out on Friday, the 21 greatest players of the 21st century, and ranking the 21st greatest NBA players of the 21st century. And feel free to check that out on YouTube. The first thing I do after we go through the player intro is talk about every single team they play for, because I want to give a baseline picture, like maybe some guys like, Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki played for the Mavs for 21 years. Kobe Bryant. It's Mamba Day. Shout out to Kobe Bryant. God rest his soul. Kobe Bryant played for the Lakers for 20 years. Some guys play for multiple teams. Everybody's path looks different. Dae'Quan Wright's path, it's hard to even make sense. Just put that graphic on the screen. It's like, what's going on? Virginia Tech from 2022 to 2023. Ole Miss, transferred to Ole Miss, no problem with that. Played from 2024 to 2025. Then gets picked up as an undrafted free agent by the Philadelphia Eagles. Gets cut. Picked up as an undrafted free agent by the Cleveland Browns. He's going to get cut if he hasn't already. Like, that's a pretty normal path. And so you see college, NFL, college, back to LSU. Now, I know people are going to, just quickly on the LSU portion of this, listen, as I've said many times on the show, certainly I can make this statement as a Tennessee fan, Tennessee Vols fan. Lane Kiffin, when it comes to his image, has not exactly done himself many favors on a number of fronts. I'll defend Lane Kiffin here. Lane Kiffin's mindset is like, well, if we can do it, if we can pick up a guy who, by the way, I coached at Ole Miss for 2 years, so I'm familiar with the kid. right? He had, let me check my numbers here. Yeah, 39 catches, 635 yards, and 5 touchdowns for the Rebels last season, for Ole Miss last season. I know the kid, like him, think he'd fit Ole Miss or LSU well. If they let me bring him back, why would I say no? Todd Monken, the head coach of the Browns, we'll talk about Todd Monken in our next segment with the quarterback situation in Cleveland. Todd Monken's like, yeah, I kept getting calls from Lane Kiffin. I didn't answer him. Now I get why he was calling, because he's trying to sign a player that we're going to cut. That's his prerogative. Like, if the rules are as such, no matter how little they make sense, if it's to gain a competitive advantage and it's not illegal, why wouldn't you do it? So I will defend Lane Kiffin there. I won't defend his exit from Ole Miss, or Tennessee for that matter, how that all transpired and some of the actions off the field. I'm not going to defend any of that. On this, and there are other college teams that are going to do this. By the way, I think I saw something, I forgot, it was around 13 or so players that, under the current rule set, during this current legal situation, are going to go from if they get cut, they're going from the NFL to college football so they can make some more money, boost their draft stock for next year. And for the record, you've seen this in the NBA too. I remember there was a guy from, I think, the NBA that went back to like Baylor or something. I was like, guys, what are we doing? There needs to be a direct pipeline to the pros. NIL, got no problem with it. You should make as much money as you so choose, or as your talents and brand and business so dictate. We're in a capitalist society. You should have the right to do that. But once you go to the NFL, like, buddy, you're in the NFL. Like, that's, and there was, gosh darn, I'm forgetting the pass rusher's name. There was a guy for, I forget which team it was, but he had like 2 sacks in his first preseason game. Played pretty well. It's like, oh, he's probably going to make the team. Is probably going to go back and play college football, which in the college sense takes spots away from guys who are, looking to, at the bare minimum, get a spot on the roster. And it's like, wait, an NFL player's going to replace me, but they're NFL players. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And this goes back to the NCAA over and over and over again, just being completely incapable of making difficult decisions, or putting their foot down, making hardline stances. We talked about this a couple of months ago with Brennan Sorsby. God bless the kid. I hope he's getting the help that he needs with his, potential gambling addiction. Brennan Sorsby transfers to Texas Tech. He ends up coming out and saying, like, yeah, I bet on games when I was at Indiana. It's like, okay, you can't play then. You cannot compromise the integrity of a competitive sport. You can't do that. You can't. And the NCAA refused to put their foot down and say, like, yeah, you're done. You can't play. Took a legal situation to basically say, and basically took the NFL to say, yeah, we're not having a supplemental draft. Brennan Sorsby, you're going to have to enter the 2027 draft and see what you do from there. So on this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, this is if there's anything that will, quote unquote, I don't think anything's going to destroy college sports or college football. People said, conference realignment, it's the death of college football and NIL and transfer portal. I don't think anybody said it better than Josh Pate, the very famous college football media personality. He was doing an interview with a guy, and the guy said, NIL in the transfer portal, it's like killing my love for college football. And Josh Pate's point was, no, it isn't. Like, he laid out the scenario. 3rd down at the 20-yard line, 2 minutes to go. Georgia, Alabama, and Tuscaloosa. Dogs are on offense. Alabama's on defense. Bryant-Denny Stadium is going crazy. Primetime national television. I can promise you do not care about NIL in the transfer portal. You're thinking about that play. You're thinking about the energy and the pageantry and the passion that comes from all of our collective love of college football. You don't give a dang about the transfer portal, NIL. By the way, ratings have gone up the last few years in college football. It's not been the worst thing ever. So that's not only will that not hurt college football, there needs to be regulations of the transfer portal. It's make college football better. This is not a tenable situation. And so, listen, I wish the kid the best. Like, again, if the rules say that he can do it, okay. But rules that don't make sense need to be amended, need to be changed. And so that's where we're at. I think most people think this is insanity in every way, shape, and form. Shout out to my man, John Rivera, Fan Perspective Podcast. Good friend of mine. Shout out to John. He says, I think if you play in the NFL, you should be able to go back to college. I really think I don't think what I said is a controversial take in any regard. Like, I think most people are like, Yeah, you can play college as long as you want. Like, by the way, folks, why is it that for years, these juniors that are really talented, but they also love their school and they love their teammates, and maybe they haven't won a championship yet, and they're deciding, what do I do? What do I do? Like Dante Moore, for example. Like Dante Moore is a prime example. Dante Moore is the quarterback at Oregon. Excellent player. Would have been the second overall pick in this year's draft after Fernando Mendoza. Dante Moore is deciding, should I stay at Oregon? I don't really want to go to the Jets. That would be like if Dante Moore said, you know what, I'm declaring for the NFL draft, get drafted by the Jets, and then he's in the Jets. He's like, yeah, this is the crappy organization I assumed it was. I'm going back to Oregon. It's like, what? Like that doesn't make sense. So, yeah, that's absolutely insane in every way, shape, and form. Sticking in Cleveland, so I figure based on the fact that we're going to be doing the show live now at 10 a.m. Eastern. The fun part about that is more potential breaking news coming in the show. And I assumed that there was a pretty decent chance that by the time we got to our second story in the show, we would have more information. And we do. It literally broke minutes before we went live. So there's been a discussion over the last 10 days or so, or at least it's heated up in the last 10 days or so, who's going to be the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Now, is that going to impact how many games they win? Well, I guess it will a little bit, but is it going to dictate the outcome of the 2026 NFL season? Who makes the Super Bowl? Probably not. But it's a debate. Is it Deshaun Watson, who's on the worst contract in NFL history, or is it Shedeur Sanders, the sixth-round pick who fell way further than he should, sixth-round pick, fell further than he should have, and we know that situation played out. Had some nice moments last year's rookie, had some rough moments, didn't play that well in their first preseason game, although neither did Deshaun. And I said last Wednesday that the upcoming Saturday game, preseason game between the Browns and the Bills, that game would dictate whether Shedeur Sanders has a future in Cleveland beyond this training camp and this season. Like that, it just would. I'm like, Deshaun's awful. We'll get to that in a second. And if you can show up, play well. Obviously, you were, again, the Shedeur fans that act like, oh, he was the best quarterback in the 2025 class. No, he wasn't. He was not the most talented quarterback in the class. I still like Cam Ward at this point. I'm not sure I believe in him long term, but from a raw talent perspective, Jackson Dart's a little bit better than Shedeur. But Dylan Gabriel isn't. Jalen Milroe isn't. Tyler Shuck might very well be. Different story. And Shedeur Sanders, all things considered, played quite well. We can show you his numbers. Played pretty well. Right? Played the whole first half, had a touchdown, still wide open man in the end zone, but threw the touchdown. The pick, he threw it behind the guy, but still, that's a pass you got to catch as an NFL receiver. That completed 81% of his throws and was spreading the ball around. It wasn't like it was just a bunch of screens and dump-off passes and what have you. 81% completion, threw for 74 yards, 87 passer rating, and again, he played the entire first half against the Buffalo Bills. Played pretty well. Like, I thought, again, the interception was... You can't say it wasn't him at all because he did throw the ball behind the receiver. Kind of had to catch it like on his back, on his outside hip. But still, it was in his hands. He got to haul that in. Aside from that, pretty good. Aside from that, didn't put the ball in harm's way. Ran the offense well. Very much, you could tell that first drive, a lot of scripted plays, bootlegs, play action, but deliver the ball on time, on target. And for a guy like Shedeur, who we've said in the show, does not have a big arm. He doesn't. That's probably his biggest weakness. He does have a big arm. Pretty accurate. That was kind of his superpower, so to speak, coming out of Colorado. Throws the ball on time, on target. He's got to get that down in the NFL quick because of his other physical limitations. Well, he showed that on Saturday against the Buffalo Bills. Then Deshaun Watson comes in. And mind you, Deshaun Watson's playing more backups than Shedeur did. And, the numbers speak for themselves. It was, that's my bad, wrong graphic. This is the graphic we wanted to show. No touchdowns through a bad interception. Completed 41% of his throws. He threw for 36 passing yards. A 14 passer rating. Just for context, you get like a 39 passer rating if you spike it to stop the clock. So 25 points below a spike in the football. Played 4 drives. He was awful. Deshaun Watson was awful in this game. And to make matters worse, we've talked about this last week with Jackson Dart. With the dude, like, I don't care how talented you are, you've got to be a franchise quarterback, you've got to be good with the media. Put out fires, take accountability, point thumbs, not fingers. It's what I've criticized Aaron Rodgers for years for. Aaron's been able to make up for that in his prime because he's one of the most talented quarterbacks ever. Most guys can't get away with that. Don't blame teammates. Take accountability, the whole bit. Browns fans, and I know I get on Browns fans. I make fun of, oh, you guys are delusional, da-da-da. If there's one thing I've defended Browns fans on from the jump is that, yeah, they have every right to be angry about Deshaun Watson being the quarterback there. They have every right to be angry at the organization for giving him the worst contract in the history of the sport. All guaranteed money. Like, it's an NBA contract. It's all guaranteed money. And the fact that on top of that, on top of the highly inappropriate behavior off the field, and that's putting it mildly, he's terrible. He's a bad player. And frankly, a bad leader, bad teammate. Deshaun Watson talking about being booed by the fans at Huntington Bank Stadium. Talking about that. And just listen to the lack of accountability this guy's taken over the next minute and a half.
Man, I didn't have no reaction. I think the biggest thing is, I think you guys know too, and I think the whole world knows, it has nothing to do about the performance. It's a little bit personal than that. So I think that's it's a disrespectful thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep whatever I feel with me and my family internally on how I feel about that. And yeah, just move on.
But don't you think, Deshaun, that winning and playing better would eliminate some of that booing?
Last time I played on this field, I tore my Achilles. And that same fan base, they cheered when I got hurt. So does that have to do with, what does that have to do with anything about performance? When a person get hurt, especially for your own city, and they cheer.
Does any of that make you regret coming here?
No, I don't regret anything in my life. You know, I think the Lord put me through situations for a reason, so I don't regret anything at all. But you know, I had different thoughts on how it was going to be, but you know, it is what it is. You know, sometimes, you know, the tables turn, and I'm patient enough because I'm a child of God to, you know, wait for that time to change. So I'm not tripping on it. I'm not tripping on it.
I always hate when people say that I don't regret anything that's happened in my life. It's like, yes, you do. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's done things that they wish. If they had an opportunity to go do it back, they would do something different. And for Deshaun, a guy with Deshaun's off-field resume being what it is, that is a fascinating comment to make. That there's like, you know, I wouldn't go back and do anything in my life. It's like, okay, well, that's the reason, probably the biggest reason that you're in the spot that you're in. It's like, if you had not acted like a perv off the field, you maybe wouldn't be in this spot. But even in terms of his play, Deshaun has been an objectively bad player since joining the Browns. So since joining the Browns, let's go the full timeline of Deshaun Watson's time in Cleveland. So Deshaun gets traded to the Cleveland Browns, which, by the way, coming off a phenomenal year in 2020 with the Houston Texans, right? Amazing year in 2020 with the Texans. Then in 2021, doesn't play the entire season because of the fact that, A, you know, the Texans couldn't find anyone to trade for him, and B, you know, some pretty serious and disturbing off-field allegations. 3 teams were interested. Browns are one of them. He gets traded to Cleveland, gets suspended for the first 11 games. So he misses a year and 11 games. So I mean, this is, well, yeah, 2021. So that would be 28 games of action. Plays 6, not great. 2023 plays, not great. Again, we'll show you the numbers momentarily. Gets replaced by old man Joe Flacco, and the Browns make the playoffs without him. Comes back, awful again, blows his Achilles, doesn't play all of last year. He's healthy this year. And Deshaun, since becoming a Brown, this is what he's been. My bad. Wrong graphic again. This is what he's been. He's been a bad player. 19 touchdowns, 12 picks, completing in the low 60s in terms of completion percentage. The man throws for 177 pass yards a game, an 80 passer rating, a QBR 0 to 100 of 35, and I'm shocked it was that high. And he has a losing record. He's 9-10. And by the way, he doesn't take accountability when he plays poorly. He's ripping the fan base for doing what I think all 32 NFL fan bases would do in that situation. Hey, guy's a bad player. His off-field stuff would tell you, not an upstanding human being. We are as starved for great quarterback play as any franchise in sports. And you're blaming us? You're mad at us? Like, yeah, dude, we don't like you. No, sorry, not sorry. We don't like you. as a player, as a guy. And most shocking of all, again, this came in minutes before we went live today. According to Todd Monken, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson will be the starter in week 1. Not Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson. Again, this just came in from Schefter tweeted it, but the article is written by Daniel Oyefisi. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. Deshaun Watson will start the season as the Browns starting quarterback. Sources tell Adam Schefter and Rappaport. Watson emerged as a starter in a competition with second-year player Shedeur Sanders that began an off-season workout program stretched into the first 2 preseason games. The decision comes despite Watson's struggles in the second preseason game. We showed you his numbers. Again, 5 for 12. He was terrible. 1 interception, 4 second-half drives. And, so he was, mad that the Browns fans were booing him, and it goes into that. We've already talked about that. So, the only justification to me can be this. He's in the worst contract in sports. They're going to start him for 1, 2, 3 games, I guess. He's probably going to play poorly. The Browns fans are going to boo. Matter of fact, let me check Cleveland's schedule and see how many of their first few games are at home and see how quickly this could go downhill. So, okay, their first 2 games are on the road in Jacksonville and in Tampa. Then they got 2 straight home games against the Panthers and a home game on Thursday Night Football. I'm just going to call it right here, right now. Week 4, home game, Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. National television audience, Amazon Prime, Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit. If this guy goes out here, wets the bed, throws a couple picks, TJ Watt sacks him 2-3 times, the boos are going to come in. And once that happens, it will be untenable based on what I think we all expect Deshaun Watson to play as, which is poorly, like the bad quarterback he's been for the last half decade, that he'll get benched for Shedeur Sanders and then probably cut. And then by that point, even if the Browns eat all that dead money, who's gonna sign him? Like who's gonna say, hey, I want in the Deshaun Watson business? Obviously not to be your starter. You want that guy to be the backup? We literally talked about this last week, that when it comes to being a backup quarterback, we always talk about you want your backups to be seen from and not heard. Like that's the thing. Low maintenance. You don't really want to see them on the field ever because that means the starter is hurt or not playing well. And by and large, their job is to help the starting quarterback, get ready every Sunday. And to have basically no distractions whatsoever. I mean, if you pulled, I'd say, I don't know about half, if you polled 25% of NFL fans, who's your team's backup quarterback, they probably wouldn't be able to name him. And that's by and large a good thing. That's a good thing. Like, you don't want to know all about your franchise or your backup quarterback's off-field life and whatever. This guy is as bad as it gets in that department. So, the only justification I can see for Todd Monken making this decision is he plays, see what happens. We kind of have a financial obligation to play him. And then by the first month of the season, Browns fans will probably hate us and hate me for starting him, bench him, Shedeur comes in. And there's going to be goodwill towards Shedeur. Browns fans like Shedeur. By the way, teammates like Shedeur. He had a great interview on the sideline after the first half with Aditi Kinkawala, talking about a number of things. Talking about the areas where he can get better. Like, showed a lot of maturity, a lot of charisma. Like, again, the charisma aspect, the smile, boy, did he get that from his father. Like, he's got that down pat. And his teammates love him for it. So, just watching this whole situation play out is, I make fun of Cleveland fans, but I kind of, there's a part of me, the Steeler and Warrior fan in me, kind of feel sorry for Browns fans. I'll be honest, I do. Like, they didn't ask to sign up for this foolishness. And yeah, for this guy, knowing his reputation off the field, knowing the fact that, the evidence isn't exactly in your favor when it comes to some of the off-field stuff. We don't have time to get into all of those off-field incidents. You would think you would at least attempt to try and rehabilitate your public image. You'd at least try that. We've seen so many people, public-facing individuals, get in trouble or what have you and be involved in some scandal. And the ones that have a shred of self-awareness will try and actually look in the mirror. They still work. I've heard the saying, look in the mirror, not the window. If you look out the window, you're blaming other people. Look in the mirror, it's just you and you. Me, myself, and I. Where do I got to be better? Deshaun Watson clearly hasn't done that. That interview, that clip we played you, clearly shows he has not done that. And so, yeah, there you are. And I got a comment here, and the fans are going to keep showing up. They're going to keep showing up because, again, they love their team. It's, can't knock them for that. But it's going to be, mark my words. What day is that? October 1st? October 1st, 2026. That will be the final game Deshaun Watson ever plays as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Mark my words. And possibly in the NFL. That's on the board too, because who the heck is taking this guy on? And you don't have to take on the contract. That's Cleveland's problem. You don't want that guy anywhere near your franchise. So that's where we're at. It is a mess, and Jimmy Haslam, the front office, they have nobody but themselves to blame. And so, there's a part of me feels bad for Shedeur, but knowing how bad Deshaun is, Shedeur will get his opportunity. He will. So, pulling for the kid. I think it's like unanimous opinion. People like Shedeur better than Deshaun. I think Shedeur is actually better than Deshaun at this point. It's a whacked out situation. And it has been from day one since this clown was signed by the Browns. Clown signed by a clown franchise. Who could be surprised? Okay, we're going to take a quick break. I appreciate everybody stopping by on this new Monday morning edition. What did Patrick call it? The Carving It Up Sunrise Edition? Let's pull up that comment. Yeah, the Carving Up Sunrise Edition. Patrick, if anybody that is, and Patrick's a dear friend of mine, anybody that has followed this guy in my chat over the years and talked to Patrick privately knows that he is very quick when it comes to creating nicknames and slogans and whatever. Like, I remember one time, I have been a Mac Jones critic since when he was at Alabama. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's putting up great numbers at Bama. That's one of the best college football rosters we've seen in the 21st century. I don't think he's going to pan out in the NFL because of his physical measurables. Like, and you could say, okay, he had the nice year in New England and had played okay as a backup in San Francisco. I'm not a believer in Mac Jones. I think more evidence supports my side than not. And Patrick, this was a few years ago. I think this was Mac's last year in New England. Patrick mentioned, Whack Jones. I'm like, gosh darn it, man. Why did I come up with that? So yeah, shout out to Patrick Brown. Shout out to everybody who's chimed in the chat so far. Please continue to do so. Like, share, subscribe, the whole bit. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, NBA story, Klay Thompson signed with the Miami Heat over the weekend. He was bought out by the Mavs, signed with the Heat. Why I think it's a great fit in Miami and why I'm starting to get a little nervous. Or a little more nervous, I should say, about Steph Curry's future in Golden State. Get to that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on this Monday. Again, this is going to be the new schedule for Carving Up Live at the bare minimum for the rest of this football season. Or really, the football season hasn't technically started yet, if you're going to count high school. But, yeah, so the next, I'll just go and say this, and then we'll move on to our NBA topic. That the next few weeks are going to look a little weird scheduling-wise. So here's what I'll say. Monday and Friday, set in stone. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. That's going to be the case all football season. That's not going to change. Monday, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. That's how it's going to be. But Wednesday, we weren't going to do a show anyway, but again, I got some other commitments that I've got to attend to. So Wednesday, no show. Then next week, probably again not a show on Wednesday just because of potential lack of topics. But the week that the NFL season starts, And that day is, September 9th? September 9th. So NFL season starts on a Wednesday. So that week's shows will be Monday, Thursday, Friday. Because Thursday we'll react to Seahawks, Patriots. Friday we'll react to Rams and Niners and then predict the rest of the weekend's games. And then so starting the week of September 14th, it's going to be the same schedule as always. Monday, weekday show. It will be Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll determine that in advance based on whatever's going on sports. If there's maybe like a big NBA game on a Tuesday, we'll probably do the show on a Wednesday. World Series, postseason Major League Baseball, the WNBA playoffs, which are going to be phenomenal this year. Let's go Valkyries. And then Friday's show, that's not going to change. Monday, Friday, that ain't moving. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. The midweek show is going to be that same time. It will just either be Tuesday or Wednesday, and obviously we'll let you guys know in advance what that will look like. It will mostly be Tuesday so that we can react to Monday Night Football, but there will be some exceptions. So, just give y'all a heads up a few weeks in advance. That's what the immediate future, the next 6 months of Carving Up Live is going to look like. But again, because for those who don't know, I've got evening classes this semester in college, so I'm like, I can't do the show live at night, obviously. So, but I still want to do the show live and do it in the morning. So, wanted that to be an option on the table, so that's why we're doing the show the way that we are doing it. So no show Wednesday, we'll be back Friday. So to the NBA for a second, excuse me. So this had been brewing, I think, for a few months now. I think most of us felt like, Klay Thompson is not going to be with the Dallas Mavericks for that long. Like, the whole point of Klay signing with the Mavs in 2024 is, hey, the Warriors don't want to pay me what I believe I'm worth. I also don't really think they're close to winning a title, which he was, I guess, half right on because they did sign Jimmy Butler, and if Steph doesn't get hurt, they make the conference finals. Regardless, I'm going to go to Dallas. They've just made the finals. They got Luka and Kyrie. I'm a good fit there. And then Nico Harrison trades Luka, and Kyrie blows his Achilles. And it's like, okay, well, there goes that. I guess that's we're not winning anything here. Cooper Flack, bright future, love the kid, but we're not winning anything anytime soon, and I'd like to get my 5th ring. He's got a year left in his contract. The Mavs like, we'll buy you out. He signs with the Miami Heat on a very team-friendly deal. And so we can show you the starting 5 in Miami. It's like, okay, this is a nice starting 5. So you got Davion Mitchell. Again, I still think Miami's lacking a true point guard. Davion Mitchell is a great defensive player. Can be a spot shooter, not really a true blue point guard. Obviously, Klay Thompson, he's one of the greatest shooters ever. His former teammate, by the way, in Golden State, shout out to the 2 champions in 2022, Andrew Wiggins, has been on the team since the Jimmy Butler trade. And then obviously the massive acquisition was getting Giannis. Bam Adebayo has been their franchise cornerstone for years. So you look at that starting 5, you're like, okay, that's pretty strong. On the other side of that coin is, okay, outside of Tim Hardaway, Nikola Jovic, it's kind of a thin bench. Now, Eric Spoelstra's your coach, so he can probably make some things work. He might still be the best coach in basketball. But look at this Miami situation, and it kind of goes to the whole, your reputation can often precede you. I heard someone talk about this with Sam Darnold with the Seahawks, that people are it's still in their head, Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghost, and the bad years with the Jets, and in Carolina, and then he was a backup, and it's like, guys, he's won 14 games the last 2 seasons and just won the Super Bowl. Like, Sam's good. Sam's that guy way more so than he's the Jets guy. That was the Jets' problem, not a Sam Darnold problem. Is that first impressions can completely cloud, positively or negatively, how you see a person. And that same thing applies to the NBA. In that for years, what's the better? Oh, God, Western Conference way better than the East. Oh, my gosh. And that, by the way, that's mostly been true. East for most of my life has been, there's like 2 or maybe 3 serious contenders. That's it. That is it. Now I look at the West today. OKC's obviously a contender. San Antonio's obviously a contender. That goes without saying. Denver, I like the move Denver made recently. But Houston, no. Lakers, no. Timberwolves, I don't think so. The LaMelo Ball doesn't really move the needle for me. I see it as probably 3 contenders, serious contenders in the West. Out East, it's like, okay, the Knicks are defending champions and rolled through everybody. They're obviously a contender. And the Pistons did win 60 games last year. Like, let's see if they take another step in the right direction. Cade's excellent. Let's see where they go. Won a playoff series. And you look from there and you're like, okay, Philadelphia just added LeBron James and Jaylen Brown, so they obviously got way better. So they're obviously a contender. And you look at Miami and you say, oh, okay. They had Giannis and Klay Thompson. They needed shooters. They got one of the best ever. That fits. And so I look at the East today and I say, like, that's, and by the way, what will Indiana look like with Tyrese Halliburton coming back? Like that's an interesting storyline to follow going into next season. So it's very much an element of, yeah, the East might actually have more contenders than the West. Like, it might be one of those situations. I remember saying, and I was wrong in it, obviously, that the Western Conference Finals last year was a real finals. And I respected the Knicks, but I just thought, OKC, San Antonio, they'll beat the Knicks in probably 6 games in the finals. I was obviously wrong on that. I feel like I'm going to end up saying in about, 8 months from now, or 8 months, 9 months from now, yeah, the Eastern Conference Finals, if it's Philly, New York, if it's Miami, New York, Philly, Miami, like whoever, that's the finals. Whoever wins this is going to win the championship over whoever comes out of the West. Now, maybe someone wins the East, and Wemby is just like so far and away the best player in the world by then, it's not even funny, and he just rolls through everybody. Who knows? But I see the East as the better conference. I think adding Klay Thompson, it's not a seismic move. You're not adding 2016 Klay Thompson, who, as he reminded everybody on social media, led the playoffs in scoring in 2016. Not adding that Klay Thompson. 2026 Klay Thompson, different guy. But from a fit standpoint, that's what they needed. What did we say when they signed Giannis? It's like, you obviously can't pass up that opportunity, but also you have no bench, which I still think they don't have, and you have no shooting. Well, then you added Tim Hardaway, and now you added Klay Thompson, so it's like you got shooting. Andrew Wiggins can space the floor. The thing I was thinking about, though, is something that it's, for me as a Warriors fan, is a lot more nerve-wracking. I'm really nervous. Today's August the 24th, Mamba Day. I'm really nervous once we get to Saturday. Saturday, August the 29th. And then from there until we get a clear resolution on Steph Curry's future in Golden State. Because starting on Saturday, Steph Curry can sign a 2-year extension. If he does not, if he decides not to, this is the last year of his current contract. Therefore, Steph Curry would be a free agent in 2027. I am Miami. I know there was a lot of Boston rumors like, oh, Steph might get traded to Boston. It's like, guys, Boston doesn't really have any serious assets that I think Golden State would be interested in. And B, Steph's not going to go finish his career, or at least finish his apex years, apex prime years, playing with the franchise that he himself said, I am the father of. Like, I beat the Celtics in the finals. That's my crowning achievement of my NBA career. Steph's not ending in Boston. He might end in Miami. So if you put Steph Curry on the Miami Heat, he's got his 2 bigs in Bam Adebayo, who he played with at the Olympics. He gets to play with Giannis. We know part of the reason Giannis was linked to the Warriors for so many years is because he and Steph are very tight. Wait, I get to be with my Splash brother again? I get to play with Klay again? Hey, I liked playing with Andrew Wiggins. He was the second best player when I won my most recent championship. I get to play for Eric Spoelstra, who, guess what? Eric Spoelstra was one of Steve Kerr's assistant coaches on the Olympic team in 2024. I look at that and I say, if you're Steph, you're like, okay, obviously great weather in Miami. Now obviously it's a long move, Northern California all the way to South Florida, long ways, but it wouldn't be long. I get to play meaningful basketball games that matter. I get to, by the way, because I don't think LeBron's going to retire after this year. I think he's going to want to play 25 years, play quarter century in the league. I get to battle it out with LeBron for the Eastern Conference title. Like the Eastern Conference, when LeBron's in the East, Bron wins the East. I can be the guy that takes that crown away from him. After all the back and forths we've had for years, Cleveland, Golden State, then Lakers and Golden State, and then play together at the Olympics. Do not discount the idea that this Klay Thompson move, while it certainly helped Miami, it's not this seismic move on its face. Does it entice Steph to go to Miami, though? Or to request a trade? Now, requesting a trade would be tough. You'd have to get another team involved because he have no assets to make a move for a guy like Steph Curry. But if you got another team involved or 2 teams involved, a deal makes sense for Golden State. I mean, Mike Dunleavy Jr., it's like the Warriors are trying to trade Steph, or like trying to say, hey, Steph, We don't want you anymore, greatest player in the history of our franchise and still an all-star caliber player. Done everything for our organization for 17 years and still great. Mike Dunleavy Jr., this was an interview we did a few weeks ago, said the only way we would trade Steph is if he asked us to. It's like, Mike, why would you even open up that possibility publicly? If you think that, okay, you can think it. Don't tell everybody that. Then teams are going to be calling you. Teams like Miami, getting other teams involved. And Steph's going to be like, golly, Miami, that's Klay and Wiggins and Giannis and Bam and playing for Eric Spoelstra and a championship organization and Pat Riley. I'm going to battle with LeBron and we get to play at Madison Square Garden where I've only lost one time in my career. Yeah, I want to play there. So I saw this. Klay moved to Miami. If Klay ended up on the Lakers, I know that's been kind of a discussion for a while now because Klay's dad won championships in LA, Michael Thompson. I believe he's still the radio color commentator for the Lakers. It's like, okay, that makes sense. It's Southern California. He kind of grew up in that part of the country, and it's a lot closer than Dallas. Excuse me, a lot more boating opportunities. We know Klay loves his boat in Southern California than there is in Dallas. Dad's there. He gets to play with Luka again, just like he did in Dallas briefly. That's part of the reason he went to Dallas. Steph's not going to LA. Steph's not going to the Lakers. He might go to Miami. So, given the fact that basically outside of Jalen Duren, the NBA offseason is pretty much over from a transaction standpoint, or I guess from a free agent standpoint, I am really nervous as we approach August the 29th. Really nervous. And, the Warriors fan in me obviously wants so bad for Steph to sign that extension. I'm 80% confident he will. I am more likely than not, Steph's going to sign that extension. He's just going to be a Warrior for the rest of his career. He's going to be Kobe in LA, Dirk in Dallas, Duncan in San Antonio. But if he doesn't, there's also the part of me that's like, I'm sick of seeing Steph in the play-in. I'm sick of that. Steph's too freaking great to be playing for the 8th seed in the West before the Warriors end up getting clobbered by OKC or San Antonio. That's where the Warriors are at today. Hope Steph can stay as healthy as he can. Pray Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody come back. Pray Porzingis stays healthy and Draymond's getting older and just hope you get a decent spot in the play-in so you can sneak in the playoffs before you get clocked in the first round. That's not a way to end your career when you're still great, which Steph is. Steph's got to be looking at LeBron saying, gosh darn it, man. The Lakers were good. LeBron, Luka, and the roster didn't make that much sense outside of that, but they're good. They're a playoff team. They're not playing for championships. And Bron explicitly stated, part of the reason he's going to Philly, I want to win. And I think this team gives me the best opportunity to win. We get to break a championship drought in Philadelphia. Steph's a pretty competitive guy. Hard to think that those thoughts aren't running through his head. And as a Warriors fan, I get it. I hate to say it, but I get it. So, okay, some Steeler news. It looks like the Steelers have just activated Jalen Ramsey off of the active, physically unable to perform list. So I guess Jalen Ramsey's going to be active for week 1, so that helps Pittsburgh's defense. Quickly on the Steelers' defense situation, it is really fascinating to see how this Joey Porter Jr. situation has played itself out. I've kind of maintained for last week, the Steelers are going to pay him. His dad obviously played in Pittsburgh, and Joey Porter Jr. is a good corner. Big, physical. The longer this drags out, and maybe I'll end up, maybe the skepticism will end up being wrong in the end. But the longer this drags out, I'm like, dang, he may get traded. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, the Steelers could get some more assets, and that's never a bad thing, some draft capital, but man, I don't know. I feel like you use that draft capital to get guys like Joey Porter Jr. No one's going to accuse him of being like a Derek Stingley or a Pat Surtain or anything like that, but he's a really good number 1 corner. So I really hope the Steelers don't trade him. Let's put it that way. Because Steelers have a talented defense. They were poorly coached last year. That's why they were ranked 26th in the NFL. We'll see what they do. Also, speaking of my teams, I saw this news before we went on air as well. My Tennessee Volunteers, I'm sure we'll talk about this plenty in a couple of weeks on the Vol View, or the first episode of the Vol View. Tennessee has named true freshman quarterback Faison Brandon the team's starting quarterback. He'll be the first true freshman quarterback to start for the Vols in a season opener since 2004. It's been a while. So, quickly on that, the only thing I'm a little surprised about is that this announcement came August 24th. So, a week and a half prior to Tennessee's opening game. They play Furman at home at Neyland Stadium. And so that shocked me a little bit. Maybe Brandon has shown himself to be much more capable than George McIntyre was. My overall take on the Tennessee quarterback situation was McIntyre is more accurate than Faison Brandon based on what I've heard and seen from Tennessee insiders in Knoxville. Probably the more ready to plug and play guy, but Brandon's got way more upside. Faison Brandon was the number 3 quarterback in the 2026 class. Like big arm, big physical guy, like fits better. And so much of this Tennessee offense too is not only is it cerebral in the sense that you got to make quick decisions, it's a lot of option routes, a lot of RPOs, but also Tennessee's offense, because of its emphasis on running the football to draw the defense in and throw the deep ball, got to be able to throw the deep ball. McIntyre can't really do that. Joey Aguilar could. Joe Milton, by the way, my gosh, he looked good for the Cowboys this weekend. Joe Milton could, he just usually overthrew guys. Hendon Hooker was a master at the deep ball. Nico really wasn't. George McIntyre, that's not really his MO. He's more of a, death by 1,000 cuts type of quarterback, which can work, but eventually the defense catches up to it, and there's a way to defend that. Whereas if you got to go with the deep ball, opens everything up. Faison Brandon can throw the deep ball. And so I like that Josh Heupel made this move. The only thing that really surprised me about it was the fact that he made or at least it was announced today, a week and a half ahead of the season opener. But it'll be fascinating. Again, Tennessee's season opener is September 5th at Neyland Stadium against Furman. So curious to see what the kid looks like. Week 3, you got at Georgia Tech, and then week 4, you got a home game against Texas. So there'll be some tests right off the bat for this kid, and I hope he crushes it. Okay, back to the NFL for a second. Couple of AFC West topics. So on the Los Angeles Chargers fans got to be thinking in the last few years, like, oh my God, here we go again. Here we go again. Season hasn't even started yet, and we're dealing with offensive lineman injuries. So last year, it was Rashawn Slater who gets hurt in training camp. And then you lose Joe Alt in the regular season, so both of your all-pro level tackles are gone, and Justin Herbert's running for his life. Well, now, the tackles are healthy, by all accounts, and your center's gone. Tyler Biadasz, who's a really good player, was good in Dallas and Washington. He's with the Chargers. Good player. Out for the year. Season-ending injury. And I can already sort of sense it. The built-in excuses that are going to be made for Justin Herbert over the next, 3-4 months of the regular season and in the postseason should the Chargers get there. And my take on it is this. It's nuanced. It's layered. Last year, did losing those tackles obviously hurt Justin Herbert? Of course they did. I mean, not only is it your 2 starting tackles, but they're 2 of the best players at the position in the league. Rashawn Slater's been an all-pro guy for a while. Joe Alt was, in draft analysis, when he was drafted in 2025, I guess it was, there weren't many tackles that I liked more than this guy. Loved him. Joe Alt, out of Notre Dame. Joe Alt, 2024-25, it was the last few years. Excellent player, big guy. Was he 6'8"? Massive guy. Losing Tyler Biadasz hurts. It does. This is also, sorry, it's the NFL life. That's how it is if you're a franchise quarterback sometimes. Sometimes key guys go down. Not to say that it's not a reason that maybe your offense or running the football up the middle can struggle at times, or dealing with pressure up the middle, which any quarterback knows that's no bueno. You don't want to deal with that. Sometimes that's how life works in the league. Both your tackles are back. You go from Greg Roman. Oh, Greg Roman. Nobody likes Greg Roman in Los Angeles. Well, now you're replaced with Mike McDaniel, who's probably a mediocre head coach. As an offensive play caller and play designer, pretty good. You saw what Tua looked like pre-Mike McDaniel, with Mike McDaniel, and thus far in preseason with Atlanta post-Mike McDaniel ain't good at all. Well, then what can you do with a quarterback with Justin Herbert's upside? Bigger physically, bigger arm, more mobile than Tua, more durable than Tua. You'd think he could turn him into an all-pro level quarterback, a guy who can, for the first time in 6 years, now 7 years, win a playoff game. Is it the receivers in LA? Still fine. Ladd McConkey, hope Quentin Johnson makes a comeback this year. You've got Omarion Hampton coming back off injury, who I loved out of North Carolina a season ago. I had Omarion Hampton ranked higher than Ashton Genty. I love the kid. He's going to come back, healthy off injury. Who likes to run the football bit more than Jim Harbaugh? That's going to help him tremendously. By the way, Mike McDaniel likes to run the football. We saw that with Devon Achane in the past in Miami and Raheem Mostert. Like, that's going to be that system. That's how it's going to play out. And you got your tackles back. And so I'm not going to sit up here and say that the division isn't still tough. Denver's still excellent. As long as Bo Nix is healthy, Denver's going to be excellent. Kansas City's getting Mahomes back, and they're going to have a running game. Raiders are rebuilding, but they've got talent. We'll get to the Raiders in a few minutes. But it's not like the sky is falling for the Chargers. It sucks. You feel bad for the kid. Tyler Biadasz is a really good player. But for Justin Herbert, is he the first quarterback to have ever dealt with a serious injury to his offensive line or to a weapon or losing a coordinator in the offseason and not still make the playoffs and still win playoff games? Dak Prescott's won a playoff game without a number 2 receiver. Like, he has. We've seen guys, Russell Wilson in Seattle with some of those bad offensive lines. This is post Legion of Boom era. Was still winning playoff games. So there's no excuses. Like, I'm not going to put Justin Herbert, as much as many would like to put him on this level of the Mahomes, the Allens, the Staffords, Lamar, Joe Burrow. I can't put him there. Joe Burrow made a Super Bowl with a garbage offensive line. Garbage. Terrible. Josh Allen has made AFC championship games, and I know I've been critical of Josh in the playoffs. Josh has made AFC championship games with bad defenses. Justin Herbert's had good defenses, good offensive lines, good coaching. It's like, okay, losing your starting center sucks. I feel bad for Tyler Biadasz, and it doesn't help Justin Herbert. But your tackles are back. Your head coach is Jim freaking Harbaugh. Your offensive coordinator is Mike McDaniel. And the defense is still really talented. And the front office drafts exceptionally well. Omarion Hampton's coming back off injury. I think he's going to star in his role on the Chargers offense. So, to the Justin Herbert stands out there that are already like, oh my gosh, this guy can't catch a break. Man, it's the NFL. It's a violent sport. I had a coach back in the day telling me, a basketball coach of mine, somebody said something about football being a contact sport. He said, no. Basketball's a contact sport. Football's a collision sport. It's a violent game. And with a violent game, unfortunately, comes pretty crappy injuries. Like Tyler Biadasz suffered last week. And nothing but the best to him. But that's the NFL. That's how it works, man. If you're the guy that people swear up and down is a top 5 quarterback, despite 0 playoff wins 6 years in. Despite the fact that, by the way, in those playoff games, we talked about this back in January when they lost to New England. His first playoff game, he was the quarterback of a team that was up 27-0 and lost. Like, that happened. His second playoff game, he had more picks in that game than he had all regular season. And in the last playoff game, offense was atrocious. There's a stat, something like 29 of 30, the last 30 possessions, Justin Herbert and the Chargers have not scored a touchdown. 29 of the last 30 possessions of the postseason haven't scored a touchdown. Like, at some point, when does that fall to number 10? Now, maybe, who knows? Maybe Madison Beer is the key that gets Justin Herbert and the Chargers, back into contention, or at least in the contention. They've never really been in contention this season. That video everyone's freaking out about of her and Justin Herbert and like, oh my God. Listen, I didn't have an issue with it. You see families on the field they're engaged. Like they're going to get married. You see families on the field with players during training camp. They'll have like family day. You'll see guys' kids running around and like, I have no problem with that. It's not like the PDA was absurd. Like they were just hanging out with each other, right? 2 consenting adults, 2 engaged to married, both very successful in their field. Like, I don't see the problem with that. So maybe Madison Beer's the key. But in a football sense, it's not the perfect situation, but does the perfect situation exist? Offensive line's still really good. You've got a good running game. You've got an amazing head coach and an excellent offensive coordinator and good weapons and a good defense. Oh, the division's tough. Okay, well, did that stop Mahomes from winning the division, what was it, like 7, 8 years in a row or something crazy and going to a bunch of Super Bowls? Did that stop Denver last year from winning 14 games and getting the top seed in the conference? You're out of excuses now, man. You are. That's where we're at. Okay, last segment before we go to break, and then end with a somewhat of a PSA, if you want to call it that. But quickly, staying in the AFC West, I want to talk about Fernando Mendoza for a second. So I guess it was Thursday night. Primetime game, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, preseason week 2, Vegas Raiders, Houston Texans from Houston. And the big storyline is, hey, Fernando Mendoza is going to start the game and start the whole first half. Let's see how the kid looks. And it was kind of a mixed bag. He had a brutal pick 6, just didn't see the guy coming, took it to the house, and it's 14-0 Houston. To the Raiders' credit, they ended up winning the game. Aiden O'Connell sneaks it in to win it. But Fernando Mendoza, 8 of 15, 86 yards, pretty rough interception, passer rating of 42. So the numbers aren't that good. But in watching the game, here's what I saw. I saw a kid who has good, not special arm strength. Like I was talking about Shedeur earlier, not having great arm strength. He's got a better arm than Shedeur. He does. Accuracy's there. Moves better than people give him credit for. I mean, his best play at Indiana, was the 4th down touchdown run in the Natty against Miami. So like the kid can move. It's obviously different going against NFL defenders than college defenders. It's a different story, but still. And I look at him and I say, I like the things he brings to the table. He was clearly the best quarterback in this past draft. That's not debatable. And this is the perfect situation for him in Vegas. At least as perfect as it could possibly be for a guy who I think was the best QB in his draft. Like I have him above Cam Ward, but is by no means a generational type of talent. Like I had Caleb Williams. I'm like, oh my God, that kid is going to be a superstar if he gets in the right situation. Same with Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, oh my, he start day 1, no questions asked. And they both did. And they both had kind of rocky rookie seasons, but then by year 2, it's like, oh, Jacksonville's got their guy. Chicago's got their guy. I don't see Fernando Mendoza in that tier. In the tier of, oh, he could maybe be the best quarterback in the league at some point. I don't see that. Franchise quarterback? Yes, I do see that. Is that Vegas has kind of the ideal infrastructure, and this is weird to say because of how poorly run they've been for most of the last 20 years or so, but you've got a good head coach in Kubiak, who you saw what he helped do with Sam Darnold last year in Seattle. Good OC, smart guy, who's going to be able to call plays. You've got a smart, mature, veteran quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who's going to be your starter. No questions asked. Kirk, I would imagine. Listen, he's not as good as he was. This is Kirk's 15th year in the league. Like he's getting towards the end here. He's not the guy he was, say, his best years in Washington or Minnesota. Still a capable. He's in that low-end starter, high-end backup category that I talk about all the time. Like you don't necessarily want this person to be your starter. But if he's your backup, you got all the trust and faith in the world that he's going to come in and win you some games. Well, in this situation, he should be your starter. You do need to ease Fernando Mendoza in. Like the talent is there. The infrastructure is there. You've got weapons. You've got Brock Bowers. Offensive line, they improved. They got Tyler Linderbaum from the Baltimore Ravens, which helps. We talk about centers in the AFC West. Linderbaum is going to help them a ton. Ashton Genty, unfortunately, went down yesterday at practice. Knock on wood for him. All the best to him. Sounds like it's a sprained ankle, which sucks. But it's not season-ending, it would appear. So eventually Ashton Genty will be back. Good, smart offensive coach. And I think, too, I'll be honest, man, I'm not shocked by a lot of things in sports. I would be genuinely shocked if by the trade deadline in 2 months or so, if Max Crosby's still a Vegas Raider. I know there was a situation he got traded to Baltimore, and then that got rescinded because of the failed physical and all that went down. So his trade value inevitably goes down. He's still an elite pass rusher when he's healthy. There's no question about that. And I think at 3 teams, all 3 in the NFC, that could really use Max Crosby. The Dallas Cowboys, the Chicago Bears, and the Detroit Lions. All 3 of which, particularly to me at least, Dallas and Chicago, see themselves as teams that we could maybe win the NFC. Like if we got Max Crosby, F them picks, as the Rams would say, as Les Snead would say, let's go for it right now. Let's get an elite pass rusher, arguably one of the 5 best in the game at his best, and let's go for it. Well, then that's 1 or 2 more picks for the Raiders to go build around Fernando Mendoza. And I know they've been sort of a trendy, There's always at least one worst to first team. A team that's awful one year wins the division the next. The Raiders have been a trendy worst to first team because Mahomes is hurt. You don't totally trust the Chargers. Denver, what's Bo Nix's health? They won a bunch of close games last year. I'm like, maybe the Raiders backdoor their way into winning the division. I don't see that happening. I just don't. Like, I like Clint Kubiak. Mendoza may get some action at some point this season. I still see, okay, Mahomes back. Kansas City will be viable. Chargers have a good roster and a good coaching staff, and so does Denver. Like, they're still all three clearly better than the Raiders. So with that, coming last division, now it depends on how they do. Will they win 6 games? Will they win 3 games? Like, they'll be better than they were last year. That I do know. They'll still get a high pick. Potentially another first-round pick that they could parlay into getting, upgrading their offensive line, getting a weapon for Fernando Mendoza. Like, I've said it over and over, and shout out to my guy Chris Mahi. There's a lot of people in Raider Nation that have been skeptical and have dealt with a lot of heartbreak and just dysfunction over the years. I think things are kind of looking up for that organization. I really, really do. And so, if you're Fernando Mendoza, looked pretty good in their first preseason game. I believe that was against the Cardinals. Second preseason game, the brutal pick 6. Had some nice throws, had some misses. He's still a work in progress. He's still developing. I mean, the reality is, no one saw Fernando Mendoza 18 months ago, heck, 12 months ago, as the number 1 overall pick in an NFL draft when he was coming from Cal. He was a good player at Cal, good quarterback. And then Indiana, he's the best player in college football. So there's still a level of development going on here. It's going to take some time, but I think it's going to work out in the end for the Raiders. I really do. Got a comment here from the dishwasher, or I should say the dash dishwasher. Shedeur should not start in Cleveland. He is mid as hell. Well, I would just say Deshaun ain't that much better, and he's on an infinitely worse contract. Not even close. Infinitely worse contract. Worst in NFL history. So yeah, we talked about that early in the show, and then we'll go to break. But it's just, I mean, I saw something from Pro Football Focus. I saw this tweet come across my phone during the show, if we can pull this up. Is the fact that the Browns offense, Pro Football Focus does grades. The Browns offense last year had the lowest grade. It was like 55.6, which is horrible. It had the worst grade of any offense in football. And so you look at the offense now, it's like, okay, you got Judkins, who had a nice rookie season, talented running back, Judy, Denzel Boston, who they drafted from Washington, Casey Concepcion, who I'm very high on, out of Texas Tech. The Browns, honestly, I heard someone say, might have been Mina Kimes, said that they're a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. I wouldn't go that far yet, but if you inserted Dak Prescott, like the 6th or 7th, 8th best quarterback in the league, into the starting quarterback role for the Browns, it's like, well, okay. I mean, got good weapons. Monken is an offensive coach. Will he be a good head coach? You don't know. Defense is still really talented because Myles Garrett's the best defensive player in football, but Jared Verse is not bad in his own right. You got Denzel Ward as your corner, good linebacking play there. So the Browns will be good talent-wise. The problem is their quarterback situation is atrocious. And I'll say again what I said earlier in the show. I will, if I'm wrong, hey, then I'm wrong. I will admit it on the show. I would be stunned if October 1st of this season, week 4, Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers, rival of the Browns, primetime, standalone game, stadium will be packed in Cleveland. I would be shocked if that's not Deshaun Watson's final game as the Browns starter. Because what evidence do I have that he's not going to continue to be what he's been since he was a Brown, he's been a Brown, which is awful, which is inaccurate, immobile, immature, bad leader, not durable, by the way. I mean, no, we're not wishing injury, but there's a potential Deshaun goes down, Shedeur starts earlier than that. But assuming health, I think week 4 is Deshaun's final game as a Brown, and maybe final game in the NFL, because who the heck's taking on that guy? Without the contract, who's taking on that guy? Should the Browns move off him? It's a messy situation in Cleveland. And there's a rationale for Todd Monken starting Deshaun. Shedeur coming in, kind of being that guy that all the Browns fans like, and people got his jersey, and his teammates like him, to sort of build that goodwill within the organization. Hopefully for his sake he plays well, and maybe so well the Browns don't draft a quarterback in 2027. I'm skeptical of that, but maybe he does. But Shedeur was better than him in the preseason. He was far better than him on Saturday. Shedeur did his job. Deshaun was awful. Maybe it's because they have a financial obligation to start him. I don't know. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, one final topic before we get out of here. And it's on a subject that has really gotten on my nerves in recent weeks. And I just want to address it in the next after the next break, and then we'll get out of here on this week's edition, or this Monday's edition of Carving Up Live. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Again, I appreciate everybody for stopping by on this Monday. Again, no show on Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday. Same time as I almost said 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. New times, though, right? It's a morning show, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Live where you would normally see the show. YouTube, Facebook. We had to take Facebook down because for some reason there were some technical issues, so we took that off. So hopefully, as long as we get that fixed, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out on those platforms. And we are working right now, hopefully, to A, be able to live stream the show on TikTok, and B, from an audio perspective, from listening in terms of listening to the show after it's already aired, getting the show out on Apple Podcasts and other podcasting platforms. Because in recent months and even recent years, the show's only been available on Spotify. So we're trying to get it out there more on Apple and other podcasting platforms, iHeart. So definitely be on the lookout for that. We'll give you updates on that as it comes. But again, new schedule for this upcoming football season. Mornings, Monday and Friday, with the midweek show in the middle, Tuesday and or Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time, right here where you watch the show, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, and on Facebook. Last topic before we get out of here, and I don't want this to draw on too long. If you're watching this on YouTube, you already know how long this segment lasts. So last night, Caitlin Clark was amazing. She's listen, I've criticized Caitlin for being a bit whiny with the officials. I've said she reminds me of Luka Doncic in that regard. Like, just keep playing. Like, don't. She's not as bad as Luka in the sense that she won't like not go back on defense just to make a point to the ref. She won't yell at the ref even when she gets the call. Like, that's. But as a player, she's absurdly great. She had 37 points and 10 assists last night. She became, I'm seeing the stat here, most 30 points, 10 assist games in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark has 5. All of WNBA history has 4. It's a remarkable stat, and again, shows you how great Caitlin is. And it's one of the many reasons why I think this WNBA playoffs, I honestly think we're going to be doing segments during football season about the WNBA playoffs because it's going to be that interesting. The Fever are an incredible offense, and the Golden State Valkyries, who I root for, by the way, are kind of in the shock of the WNBA. And the Minnesota Lynx have got Olivia Meyer, like all of these guys, these women, these players. Asia Wilson, still the best player in the WNBA. It's going to be a great playoffs. Paige Beckers has been great. But it feels like every single time that this league continues its upwards trajectory, you get just dumb stories like we saw last night that have nothing to do with Caitlin Clark making WNBA history, that have nothing to do with, hey, can the Fever go on the first playoff run with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell and all these women? So last night, the Fever were playing in Chicago against the Chicago Sky. And midway through the game, we'll show you the images. Natasha Cloud, who plays for the Sky, got into it with a fan who happened to not be just any fan. He happened to be former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom. And if you can't see the shirt that he has on right there, we will show you a close-up image that he proudly posed for the cameras for, defining a woman. This is woman, noun, adult, human, female, for those that are listening through the podcast. That's what his T-shirt said. And Enes Kanter and Natasha Cloud. Enes Kanter sitting baseline. Natasha Cloud, who's doing her job, which is to play basketball, something Enes Kanter has not done in 5 years, got into it. And Enes Kanter got escorted out of the arena. And it's so funny that I was actually talking to somebody literally like 2-3 days ago about like the worst kinds of people at athletic events, at concerts, are the people who show up just to ruin it for everybody else, or who are trying to cause a stir, trying to get kicked out so that for 10 seconds they get a shred of the attention that the people were actually there to see get. We're there to see the athletes. We're there to see the performers. We're not there to see you lose. Like, we don't care. I was at a Luke Combs concert in May. Amazing time. Luke Combs is sensational. We know that. And there was it was actually a couple. And they were just going from I'll just yell at people, you stole our seat, you stole our seat. Knowing good and well, nobody stole your seat. And they end up leaving. It's like, guys, don't ruin it for the rest of us. That's essentially what Enes Kanter did. And let me say this first and foremost, before I get to the Enes Kanter Freedom piece of this. If anybody is looking for me in this segment, or frankly for any future segments, to take a hardline stance on the transgender athletes conversation, here it is. I don't have one. You know why I don't have one? Because it's murky, because it's complicated, because it isn't, regardless of what the bad actors on both sides of this argument want to lead you to believe, it is a very complex issue. It is not black and white. Anybody who don't trust anyone out there on this issue or any vast, complex issue, don't trust anybody who seemingly always has a very simplistic response, a very simplistic solution. It could be wars in the Middle East. It could be, it could be transgender athletes, anything. Anyone who on a vast, complex issue has the solution, they're lying through their teeth. They're grifters. That's what they are. The only hardline stance, and we'll move to Enes Kanter, the only hardline stance that I have on this issue, and even the broader issue of transgenderism, so to speak, is this. They should be treated with respect, with dignity, and with love. And as the rest of us are, and just like the vast majority of most people, they just go about their day-to-day lives not bothering a soul. The vast majority of them, they're just going about their lives. They're not bothering anybody. And so anybody that dehumanizes them, acts like they are less than human or should have less rights than you or I, or got nothing for you. Got nothing for you. They're God's children just like you and I am. There's no two ways about it. That is the hardline stance of this issue I will never move off of. They deserve respect, dignity, and love, and they deserve the exact same rights in this country, where I'm speaking just within these borders, that the rest of us have. And that I will not move off of. On the transgender sports subject, it is far too murky to take a hardline stance on, and those that do, I don't frankly trust that much. When it comes to Enes Kanter, for those that may have not been following, congratulations. You would have wasted your time had you been following. This is a guy who, he played in the NBA for, 10 years. So, had a pretty long career, all things considered. Decent score, average double figures a game. The problem was he was a garbage defender. He has the exact same defensive rating for his career as Nikola Jokic, and at least Nikola Jokic is an all-time great offensive player. Enes Kanter was not. And Enes Kanter would like you to believe, and has stated as such, I was blacklisted from the NBA because I took a hardline stance on China. No, you haven't been in the NBA since, because in your final destination in Boston, this is what you did, and you weren't very good. You averaged 3 points a game, 4 rebounds, 0.2 assists, 0.1 steals, and 0.1 blocks. You weren't very good, dude, at the end. And guess what? For those that may not remember, I'll fill you in. When the Celtics released him mid-season, you know what the Celtics did? They went to the finals. the first part of the season, they were hovering just around 500. I'm not necessarily saying Enes Kanter was the reason that they were mediocre and then went to being a finals team. I'm saying that those things can't be completely, separate from one another. So Enes Kanter, the player, was fine in his prime years and with the Jazz, with OKC, and he was okay in Portland. By the time he got to his second stint in Boston, he was not a very good basketball player. Simple as that. And he has found a way over the last few years, whether it's ripping LeBron or come after guys because they're not taking the exact stance on human rights that he believes they should take, despite the fact that he has ignored human rights violations in other countries and other situations other than his own and with China. Not saying that those countries have not done despicable things to their human beings, to their citizens. They have. It's just that he's ignored, from a political perspective, other human rights violations going on in other places around the world. Enes Kanter recently, in this whole transgender sports debate, Sophie Cunningham of The Fever opened it up, and it's been a firestorm since. Enes Kanter made a completely disingenuous video where he officially declared for the 2027 WNBA draft. He's like, well, hey, if anybody can be a woman, then I can. That was his thing. And in the video, it's funny, today's Mamba Day, he wore the exact same orange WNBA hoodie with the white logo that Kobe Bryant wore to his final NBA game that he ever attended with Gigi back in 2019. And a lot of I've worn it on this show. A lot of NBA players, a lot of NBA fans, WNBA fans, and players have worn that same hoodie as a tribute to Kobe because of how much Kobe cared and loved and invested in women's sports. Is that I find with people like Enes Kanter, with others, I'm not saying all, I'm saying others, who talk about this issue with just certainty that their position is the correct one, that their baseline sort of principle that we care about women's sports, we are just trying to protect the women. I'm not talking about everybody who had that stance. I'm talking about people like Enes Kanter. So Enes Kanter's strategy to make this message known was to sit courtside at a WNBA game. We don't have the rights to show the footage. You can find that for yourself on social media. But to sit courtside at a WNBA game, wear a t-shirt to troll the players, and then for a second there, it looked like he was going to step on the court and confront this woman, Natasha Cloud. Boy, that's real big and manly of you, buddy. That's, boy, whoo, big. That is as masculine as I've ever seen it, right? Is that the same people who say that they care about women's sports and they're trying to protect women's sports, so many of those same people are the exact same people when this WNBA CBA negotiation process was going on. This was last year's All-Star game. Remember when the players during warm-ups came out with t-shirts? I think it was something like "Pay us what you owe us." And the just outrage. Who do you think you are to ask for all that money? Nobody cares about your sport. Nobody cares about the WNBA. By the way, I want to protect women's sports and I care about women's sports. Also, I don't care about your league. Like, what? Those things don't square with reality, but also with trying to be a consistent person, having a consistent take. So a lot of the people, not all, a lot of the people who discuss this issue, like Enes Kanter, don't actually care about the issue. They care about getting clicks. They care about attention. They care about using a very complex and human and deep issue that does not have one clear defined solution to advance their own bigoted agendas. It's that simple. I'll just ask you this question. How many of the people that have said things similar to Enes Kanter or who have backed Enes Kanter in this situation, how many of them do you see tweeting regularly about, hey, great game the other night. What was it? Thursday night. I watched this game with my sister the other night. The Dallas Wings and the Indiana Fever. It's a great game. Kelsey Mitchell broke the record once held by Asia Wilson. Most consecutive, I believe it was most consecutive 20-point games, 30-point games in the history of the WNBA. Wow, that's awesome. League's growing. The Valkyries have shocked everybody in. And Olivia Miles, and oh my gosh, like this new wave of WNBA players coming in, and Angel Reese had a perfect game for the field. They don't give a damn about the WNBA when it comes to, the actual on-court product. They care about how can I utilize these women, these very difficult issues to get attention of my own. And I'm mostly speaking to men here. To the men that do that, frankly, I'm just going to keep it a buck. I think you should really reconsider your masculine credentials. That if this is something you're talking about all the time, if this is what you think about a lot, if this consumes a lot of your day, A, get a life, and B, you're kind of a weirdo. You just are. Enes Kanter, don't you have better things to do? Oh, yeah, that's right. You haven't played in the NBA for 5 years because you're not that good. You were a garbage defensive player, and the second you were a bad offensive player, and you've always been a bad locker room guy, the Celtics couldn't get rid of you fast enough, and the rest of the NBA is like, we don't want anything to do with you. So, yeah, I found that just laughable on his part. Laughable in every way, shape, and form. And again, the last thing I'll say, to reiterate something I said earlier, to anybody that acts like that this particular issue is simple, you don't get it, and you are either intentionally lying or you just don't get it. Like it is deep. I mean, there are scientists that are still kind of undecided about like how do we kind of approach this. Like I listened to a podcast, gosh, it was a year ago. It might have been 2 years ago during the Olympics when there was that controversy with women's boxing. With that one female boxer. I'm like, was she transgender and all that? And the reality is it's deep, it's complex, frankly, it's quite murky. And I can't in good conscience have a hardline stance on it. I can't. Once we get more information, maybe as the science evolves, one direction or the other, yeah, maybe I will have a more hardline stance. I don't now, not in August 24th, 2026. I don't. And when it comes to regular, average, everyday transgender people, guess what? I think they should be treated the exact same way that you and I want to be treated. I know these days that tends to be a pretty controversial topic, at a pretty controversial stance. How, I don't know, but it is. Dignity, respect, and love, just like the rest of us deserve. The vast majority of transgender people are just like the vast majority of people, which they are. They mostly just go about their everyday lives, not trying to cause trouble. That's what the vast majority of them are and do. So, and by the way, they've had to go through things that many of us will never have to go through. And I'll leave it at that. With that, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody for stopping by as always. Again, no show on Wednesday. We will be back, though, on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Again, very excited to be on in the mornings. Excited for kind of this new era of Carving Up Live. Hopefully we can get more guests on in this time slot, because a lot of times there's a lot more people are available in the mornings as opposed to the evenings. People got stuff to do. I understand that. So hopefully that's to come in the future. But thanks everybody for stopping by. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and hit that big red subscribe button right down there if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel, Carving It Up with Bryson Carver. Subscribe to the Grid Network, the network that I'm a part of, as GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network. And follow me on all social media platforms, Instagram, X, TikTok, on Twitch, where the show streams as well. I'm all over the place. And we'll be working on, the show will be available on Spotify as soon as we can get up there, and we're working on making it available on Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms as well. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I really hope Drew Aller's the guy. I'm not gonna lie. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.